now on YouTube and LinkedIn. So welcome, happy Thursday. Welcome to our No Code Ops live community show. Today we have our guest speaker, Matt Bourne, and Jens here, our head of marketing, who will be helping me and co-hosting this event. So yeah, welcome, Matt. I hope that we're gonna have a great event with you. I'm sure we will, because it's the first time that I ever get to see Documint. I'm really interested in this topic because we were just having a chat here and talking about how documentation or just creating documents could be such a time consuming I'm really excited to see how we can, from your title, create a document in one click from Airtable using Documint. So can you give us a little bit of an introduction on how you got into the no-code space?
Sure, absolutely. Well, first of all, thanks for inviting me on. It's really great to be here and be part of the No Code Ops community, and happy to share a little bit about Documint and about me as well. So yeah, no problem. So I'm Matt. I have been sort of using no-code tools as they've come to be called for probably, I don't know, 7 or 8 years probably now. Started off with Airtable, and then Zapier and the like, and gradually kind of work my way through them. There are too many to mention now, of course. But yeah, I was using them in a previous job. I spent 20 something years in marketing solutions business. So I ran operational teams. So ops is near and dear to my heart. And and then when I started discovering these tools, really saw the power and the opportunity there. So the last few years or so, I've been working in full time in the no code space, and Documint. I'm sort of on the product side and the partnership side. Look after support. So if any of you that have used Documint already, you've probably heard my voice on the support videos, and you may have chatted to me on support as well. So that's my role, but I'm also kind of looking after the partnerships with other tools that we interact with and integrate with, as well as kind of doing these webinars to help raise awareness about what can be done.
That's amazing. How old is the company, or how old is Documint?
Very, very young. We launched in I think it was April or May of last year. So we're coming up for just about 2 years. Sorry, of the year before. So we're coming up for just about 2 years. Yeah, it was right sort of in the middle of the COVID spike. So.
I love that. I love that. So many good things have come out of COVID. It's great. I've come out of COVID as a community manager. Yeah. I have a background in education, and I just love to see how people kind of reinvented themselves, or how these amazing products just came along to solve a problem. So yeah, I guess out of this we can also get some positives.
Yeah. Well, I guess people had a lot of time on their hands as well. So yeah.
Yes, and some of them used it properly.
Right, absolutely. Yeah.
All right, going deep dive into our presentation today. So how would we start? So are we going to use Airtable first, and then from our base, we'll be generating a document?
Yep. Yeah. So I put together a couple of examples, but I'll show you around Documint and the designer and how it works, what you can do, and some of the features in there to give people a bit of a broader understanding of the capabilities. And then I've got a couple of examples to run through to show it kind of in action and show you that one-click generation that everyone loves so much.
Can't wait.
So yeah, I'm happy to share my screen whenever you would like me to, and I can dive in.
Yeah, feel free to go.
All right.
We'll pop it on the screen.
No problem. Okay, let me know when that comes through.
Here it is.
Okay, great. So I'll make these full screen in a second just to show you. So we've got some tables here in a base that we're going to use to illustrate what we're doing. And then obviously we've got Documint. So first of all, I thought I'd just take you through Documint itself and give you some examples of kind of how it works and what you can do. So when you log in, this is, if you like, your control tower. This is where all of your templates would be. We have a handful of templates to get you started if you don't come with an idea of what you're looking for already, but very often people already have an idea of the document they want to create. So you can start from scratch, or you can choose one of our templates. I've got a few here I'm going to show you today, but I'll just give you an example of how the template designer works. All right, so when we load up our template here, these formats will look quite familiar, I think, to a lot of people. The curly brackets are the variables that we use to merge. Let me just zoom in a bit. To merge the information from our data source into our template. And we have a whole load of content elements and layout types to help you design and style your document as you would like to. So let's start over here on the left-hand side. If we wanted to add some more to this template, for example, we can just grab a section, drag it in like that. And then let's say we want to add some text in here. There we go. And then we can add some text. And then from here, we have more control in the properties. So we can adjust the size and spacing if we want to. We can put padding around it for the text itself. We've got access to a whole load of different fonts we might want to use. Let's have this horrible font. We can change the weight. We can change the color if we want to from the full RGB range. We can change the alignment, the spacing, make it capital if you want to. And there are some other controls in there around other things we can do with text, for example. We can also add background colors if we wanted to do that. Let's make it.
So it's properly like a design
right.
interface,
Absolutely.
kind of similar to Figma. Yeah.
Some people have very kindly said that we're very similar to more like the web flow of documents, which is quite an accolade to give us.
Yes, that's a powerful statement.
Right. I know Webflow is close to your heart. I think hopefully we're not quite as complex to use, but there are definite similarities in as much as there's a huge amount of control that you can have. And this is a very simple design. Design is not my forte, but for those people more creative, you can literally create any kind of document you would like to, and we see just a huge range of different types of documents that our users create, and some really crazy stuff that we didn't even know was possible to do, frankly. So that's kind of cool.
This is fantastic, because I thought this was just going to be like a technical documentation kind of invoices. I didn't even think of the possibilities of going a little bit more creative, like a certificate of appreciation that we have right here.
Oh yeah. I mean, and this is a very simple design, but you can add, we've got so many different types of sections here. So we've got columns and rows to separate up our content in a way that you need it to be displayed. It's much more like a drag and drop website designer than it is a traditional word processor, like a lot of the other document creation tools are. So it gives you much more ability to be very granular about the output that you want to create. So we just looked at text there, but we can add images. This one's an image. So if I click on that image, we can change the size of the images. We can add borders and corners, and each of the content types have their own properties. So page break spaces, all those sorts of things. So you really have a huge, a pixel perfect amount of control about what you want to achieve in terms of design. So, if we wanted to put a background in here, for example, stop down to background. Let's make it. I don't know why we would make it red, but we could make that red if we wanted to. Full RGB range, full hex codes are all available. Let's not make that red, because that would be horrible. But And I'm just going to remove this because we are going to use this one later.
And this is all browser based.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, yeah. So
Nice.
this is sort of the layout and content types with all of the various parameters and control that you can have there. As we move into the design section here, this canvas is actually an infinite canvas. So the pagination is done during the merge process, but you can set your page size in here. That shouldn't be softer, that should be that. So you can set your page size in here if you want to custom or whatever kind of off the shelf you'd like. You can change the landscape or format. You can adjust your margins in whichever size is your preference. You can also add dynamic naming of the documents. So any variable that you see in these double curly brackets would also go into the naming of the document itself. So that will be different every time you created a document. So for invoices, for example, that could be especially helpful. So it's easy to identify the documents that you're creating. We have preview functionality. So this is something that is actually quite difficult to do before, or rather in some other tools. So we have a little preview window here where you can add in, fake data, but let's do this. And, so preview that, see how that looks. There we go. And there's going to be an image in here as well, but for now, I don't have that URL to hand. But you can easily see exactly what your. Let me zoom in there a bit for you.
Yes, I just want to see what I won.
Right, exactly. Well, yeah. So that's quite a nice little feature. It helps to just sort of make life a little bit easier. This down here we have a variable image. This is kind of cool. We can store our attachments in Airtable or actually in any data source that you have, and we can use the URLs to change the images, and they can be dynamic. So I'll show you this later on in some of the other examples, but variable images, variable text is no issue for Documint at all. What else could I show you? Oh, one thing I will show you, and we'll come on to this example a little bit later. It doesn't apply to this certificate, but we have these logic functionalities here. So we can add conditional logic to sections or elements as we wish to. So I don't know, let's say total, it doesn't really matter. So we only want to display this whole element when the total is greater than, I don't know, $100, let's say. And then when we save that, based on our underlying data, this will either appear or not, depending on what our underlying data says to do. So this can be super powerful for contracts, for example, agreements where you want a certain clause if the contract has a certain value or something like that. So that's totally easy to do within Documint. And we have a repeat loop functionality. So we're going to showcase this a little bit later, but this is where the invoices sort of come into their own. So we can loop through all of our linked records to create a line item list in our invoice. And this is, again, all powered through our logic editor. In here, we can sort those fields as well if we need to. So I'll showcase this for you, won't spoil the surprise, but just to give you, it's not just the design, you then have that underlying functionality as well. We also have headers and footers that you can add if you ever needed or wanted to do that, to add page numbers and stuff like that. From the data side over here on the right, these are the variables that appear in your template. So anyway, you see the curly brackets appears as a variable here. And then we have this sort of tree-like function as well. So this is where you might come into linked relationships, or it might be you're using dot notation to identify a particular piece of data. This just helps the structure to understand, where your data lives, where it's coming from, what kind of information it is. You can add a variable very easily. So on Airtable in this case, so if we put in the name of our field, let's say our field was company address, then it converts it into a template variable kind. So we can just copy that, and then we just paste in our, paste that in, and now we've got a variable called, this will change in 1 second, company address, like so. And so that's how we map up all our fields in Airtable or another data source.
And I really like the fact that there's an explanations right there at the bottom, like what are variables, because yeah, it's just really nice to see when things are explained in educational touch.
Sure. Yeah. It's it can be a complex process with variables as you get used to it. So we try and be as helpful as we can. But yeah, that's a good point. This is kind of a nice touchdown here that we'll showcase in more detail later. But you can obviously add dates as much as you would like to, but you can also format them in any way you want to. So this string here is the format that we've chosen today, but we could use any combination of date formatters based on anything you find in Zapier or in Make, for example, to transform your data from one format into another format, and doing it within Documint, so you don't need to change your underlying data. So that's kind of powerful. We can do that with dates, numbers, currencies, all those sorts of things as well. So you can really tailor it to exactly your locale, for example. So if your country has a certain format, you could mimic that. It doesn't have to be, you don't have to inherit something from, somewhere that's not exactly what you're looking for. And how are we doing time-wise? Yep. And then we have our layers section here. This is just an easier way to navigate. Sometimes if you've got a very busy template, it's hard to find things. So we can just click into our section here. And when that drops down, we know that that's a column, and then we've got all of our text sections in here. So if you've got a very busy template, this can be very helpful to find what you're looking for. And we have active and inactive modes. So if it's inactive, you'll get a watermark at the bottom. So if you're testing, for example, then you may not want to use your allowance of documents from your plan. But when this is active, the watermark will be removed, and it will just be a nice clean version of your document output. So that's sort of the a very quick overview of Documint, how it works, some of the things you can do. We do, of course, have lots of other helpers and formatters. So you can do grouping, you can do filtering, you can do all of those kind of cool things as well, to really make sure that your document is only showing the data that you want when you want to show it. Yeah, shall I take a pause there? Are there any questions, or do you want me to dive into an example?
Let me check. Doesn't seem like we do have any questions from the chat. Jens, do we have any questions?
We do have some. Maybe we'll go more into this later on, but it would be great to have some real life, how are companies using this besides this kind of usage.
Yeah, you want me to do that now, or you want me to come on to that later?
Let's continue with a few examples, and whenever you feel like it, feel free to give us some more examples. Okay,
no problem. One thing I nearly forgot to show you, the coolest part of all, the integrations button up here is really where the action is. So nice. we've built out quite a few integrations. We've got a load more coming. I'll tell you about those as well. Obviously, you know that we do work with Stacker and Softer, and Noloco and Pori. So you can build your template and trigger that from your portal, which is kind of cool. Obviously, Zapier and Make, no self-respecting no-code tool wouldn't be without a connection to both of those. And then we have, the main star of the event today, our Airtable integration. So this is native. So you don't need Zapier or Make to do it. You can do everything you need just within your Airtable base. And I'll show you exactly how this works. But we have actually 3 options within Airtable. we have the automation script. This will allow you to be completely hands-off. So you can use the script that we generate for you to trigger your automation within Airtable, and then run that script and create your document. You don't even need to touch anything at all. We have our generation link method, which is what we're really going to showcase today. This is our one-click method, and we can put this in a button field. I'll show you how we do that. And then we have a native app. So an extension, I guess, as they're called now. That is also available within Airtable. Actually, the script and the generation link are probably more powerful, I think, than the app, and a little bit easier to use as well. So I'd probably recommend either of these two getting started. But yeah, we have 3 options there that you could wish to choose from. We're gonna focus on the link today, but I'll just sort of show you how that script generates as well. So let me go over to Airtable here.
Yes, and as you do that, do people also have an option to, is there a marketplace? Say, for example, I'm creating all these templates or all these documents. Is there a showcase or a marketplace where other people can copy them?
Well, we have a small amount of templates at the moment that you could choose from. We're adding more. Like I said, we don't get a huge demand for hundreds of templates simply because a lot of people have they all either already have a document they want to recreate, or it might be a relatively simple one like an invoice or something they're looking for. So we don't have that sort of marketplace at the moment. It's an interesting idea, but we're always open to if there is a big need for a certain kind of template. We're just about to release about another 5 to 10 templates into our list, so hopefully those would be helpful. But no, it's an interesting idea though. Maybe
I'm just always thinking about community and like what would people want to do is just like share what they've done, and for other people to be able to copy that and kind of work on that document as well.
Yeah. No, that's an interesting one. I'll take a note of that. I've got a few examples today. Since you loved the certificate so much, Claudia, I did a little example here. This is a very simple example using the template that we have. So this is a one table solution. So you would just have the name, company name, whatever information you wanted. We can have the logo in here as an attachment. We add our dates, and then we need somewhere to save our file, because when we click our button, Documint is going to merge that file and then save it back down to the record that created it. So you don't need to scramble around trying to find where the file is. Everything will be saved back down for you. And then this is our certificate link, and under here is our formula field that we create. I'll show you exactly how that works, but I'll show you the magic first. And you can keep this under a button field, so it's nice and easy. And then fingers crossed that I've done everything and I didn't mess up the template when we were looking at it. But let's just click our button here. Opens us up a new window. Takes a second to render. And there you go. So now we've got dynamic names, got the logo in here. Same would be maybe Phil would like a certificate as well. And you can see that's come into our attachment field here as well. So maybe Phil would like a certificate as well, just to prove that it is dynamic and I didn't just sort of make it up.
Make it up, yeah.
There you go. So there you go. So Phil's got one too. Sorry, Jens, I didn't realize you'd be on the call, or I'd have made you one. Maybe I'll make you one in a second. So very, very simple example there. And it literally is one click, right? Once you've got your template in place and your data mapped across with your variables, it's that easy to do it.
That's amazing, because it's already like automating so many little steps that you would have otherwise, have to do.
Right.
Like, copy, paste, change the name and something, and then you always incur in some kind of distraction error, like, oh, you write the main name at the top, and then at the bottom the print name is somebody else's, and all of that kind of manual hassle, it's all eliminated with one click.
Right. Yeah, I hope so. Yeah. So I'll just show you how that the integration works. Within Airtable, we have these two methods. So the generation link, we have a formula builder here that will create that formula that you put under your button field, and we just need to give it a little bit of information. So we need our table URL, which let me see if I can just grab that really quick. So we grab our full URL from the top here.
Mm-hmm.
And we paste that in here. We need to tell it what field we want to save it down to. So in this case, ours was called PDF, but could be whatever it was. You see it starting to create our formula here for us. We can overwrite attachments, which means it will replace it every time we click the button. Or if you leave it off, you just get a versioned out iteration over time. Expanding link records is if you have multiple tables you want to reference, and I'll show you that in a moment. And a couple of other options here. So you can force it to be active where the watermark is removed, for example, and then watch and ignore paths can help with saving some of your credits by only generating a new document when there is a change in the data. So there's a couple of different things there, but we can just leave these as default and none for now. And then you literally just copy the formula, go to your button field that you've created, and you just paste the whole thing in like that, and you are done. And then you're ready to click it, and it's as simple as that to create your generation link integration.
That's great. That's yeah, I love things quick and efficient. And yeah, going back to Jens's question, how do you think companies could make the most of this feature, for example?
Well, I mean, so we have just a wide range of use cases and examples. A lot of people are using the invoice example that I'll show you in a moment.
Mm-hmm.
But people are generating all sorts of documents, agreements, brochures. We have people that are generating whole brochures specifically for clients. So every brochure is different depending on what that client is interested in. So you're just linking all of those records to that individual client, and then you generate them their own basically personalized brochure on the fly, which was a very interesting project to work on with one particular customer that we have. People use it for organizing their activities. So they have a registration sheet or something like that, and they want to either print it out or they want to email it to somebody. People are generating certification, like safety certificates, for example, for appliances. There are people generating listings, so for houses or for rental property agreements where they sort of showcase their property. There's just so many, it's hard to identify them all, to be honest. Even charter services, we seem to have a few of our customers that are doing chartering of luxury yachts and private jets and stuff like that. I mean, just stuff you wouldn't ever imagine was even a thing, but they all need documents. So there's really a load of different use case examples, and because we do have that power to use variable images, that becomes very powerful to create very personalized documents for specific types of business.
Great. I see there's a question popping up. Jens, do you want to take it?
Sure. So can you tell me shortly about your pricing model and if you offer any educational discounts?
We do, yes. So our pricing model is there's a free plan. You can get started with that right away. You get 10 unwatermarked generations with that per month, and you can start with that for free. The only thing you can't use is the automation script in that one, but everything else, all the other integrations, excuse me, are available to you. And then we have various paid plans from there. And the difference with the paid plan is They start at $30 US for 200 unwatermarked documents per month, and we go up from there. But if you have a special need or requirement, then please feel free to reach out and we can help you with that. Educational discounts, non-profit discount, yep, please just connect with us and we can talk to you about what we can do to help with that.
That's great.
What will you be focusing on in the future when it comes to integrations, features? What can we see in a few months or a year?
Oh, there's so much stuff coming down the line. We have several integrations that are that have either come out soft launch now. So we just launched a coder integration. We have soft launched with HubSpot. We're working on other integrations and other possibilities, of course, all the time. There are so many ideas for that. It's almost limitless. But we've been working with quite a few other providers, some of which I think are probably friends of your show, that we may be releasing probably within 6 months, hopefully within the next year for sure. But feature-wise, we've got a big upgrade coming very soon. So upgrade to the designer, make it even easier to get your tokens in. So you're going to be able to update your schema. So all of the variables that come in, you can just build your own schema. So Documint will know all of the different field types that you have, and just make it even easier to get started. And the upgrade that Airtable has made to their API is also something that we're going to try and incorporate that very soon as well. So that would make it super simple to get started, and you don't have to remember the syntax of the curly brackets and all that sort of stuff. We'd handle all that in the background, and you can just focus on creating the document that you
want. Here's a question that I know the answer will help a lot of operators. So how do I convince my boss we should start using Documint?
Well, I mean, it depends how nice your boss is. The big thing for most of the companies or the users that we work with is the amount of time it saves them. So once your template is set up, and then people are spending hours editing. I probably don't have to tell you any of this, right? If you've ever created an invoice, it's like 20 minutes work just for one invoice or whatever. And if you're doing that at scale, you're doing a lot of those every day or every week or whatever. It's the automation ROI calculation, right? If something's taking you 10 minutes and you do it 10 times a day, and you can do it then in 5 minutes, the return on investment is huge, and the opportunity for not just cost savings, but the time savings for people. And obviously there's a cost attached to that, but it's also, you're not giving them like really boring work to do, and they can go and do something much more interesting and productive than generating hundreds of documents every day or week or month or whatever. So the time savings can be enormous if you have complex documents, and being able to do it in one click or even no clicks with the automation script is hugely powerful. We have a few case studies on our website where people literally have been thinking about having to employ an additional person just to take care of that that administrative side, and now they don't have to do that, and they can employ a person for more productive things rather than just filling out documents the whole time. So it really is making a difference to some of our users, and that's real. That's amazing to hear those stories. It makes us feel great about what we're trying to do.
Hopefully they will still be hiring like no-code operators that can use Documint to solve their problems.
Absolutely. Hopefully that doesn't go away anytime soon. But there's huge opportunity for time savings, and obviously, time is money, so cost savings as well. So that would be my angle.
For sure. Did you have any more of the case studies that you wanted to show us?
Yeah, so let me show you a couple of these other ones. So that was a nice kind of simple, easy one. This one, I think, is sort of getting into the nitty-gritty a little bit. So this is a very common use case for Documint, and that's producing an invoice with line items. So we've got 4 tables here, and they're all connected because every invoice has a company, every invoice has line items, and every line item is linked to a product. So we've got kind of invoice level here, our top level where we're going to generate from. These are all of the line items that would appear in our invoices for all the various invoices. This is a list of our products here, and these are the companies that we work with, and they're all kind of linked to other invoices. So I'm assuming most of your audience has a pretty good Airtable knowledge already, or at least can extrapolate. So this setup is slightly different because we are linking to line items and to company, and line items is linked to products. So we have to do a couple of things slightly differently here. So we need to add this table ID. I won't bore you too much with the details of it, but until Airtable updated their API, they were very stingy with what they would give us information from their API. So we needed to add, a way for us to find the information. So we need to do a little bit of extra work to help Documint, but once that's set up, it runs with no problem. We also have we can handle rich text fields. So markdown within the rich text field, as you know, we can format all of the markdown correctly. So in this case, we've got some bullet points, but if we had tick boxes or something like that, then we could handle all of that as well. And all of the other markdown within rich text can all be rendered correctly. So we've got our invoice, we've added line items to it, and we've got our subtotals and taxes and our invoice date and all of the other things. So again, we need to have our place where we're going to save back down our file to, and we have our button as well we're going to click in a minute. But before I do that, I just want to show you this template because there's a couple of things slightly different.
Is the invoice templates one of the most used, would you say? Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
I would assume so as well.
Yeah. Yeah. And people adapt it for all other things like packing lists and dispatch notes and transactional documents. Okay, so nothing too pretty to look at, but we've got some style in here with background colors and so on and so forth. We got our logo and obviously all the variable information. This section is one to pay attention to because this is where we use our edit logic. So in this case, we're going to loop through invoice line items, which is a linked field, and we're going to loop through that for as many linked items as there are, and we're going to produce an individual line for each one. We can also control the page break. So if we had 20 line items or 20 linked items, then it will roll over onto the next page and expand the document as far as is needed. So you could, and people have produced documents with hundreds of pages using Documint. So most of the rest of it is very similar to what I've shown you. So this is handling markdown here. We have this number formatter. So we're going to use this particular type of format, transforming that information so you don't need to change your underlying data. I think those are probably the major differences, but just to sort of make you aware that there's some slight difference in the setup. But it's as easy as it was with the certificate. Once you're set up and ready, all we have to do is give it a click. So I'm going to just make sure, see which one had the most. So that's got 3, this one's got 4. Okay, so let's choose this top one because it's got more line items. But again, we just give it a click. I keep my fingers crossed that I've done everything. Give it a second.
Suspense music.
We need like a drum roll or something. There you go.
There you go.
Ooh, that's a funny noise. So yeah, now so you can see we've got our line items, we've got variable images for the product brought in, everything's formatted correctly, our markdown is correct. Oops, that was kind of a little bit too far. Our markdown is correct, and everything is just the way we want it.
That's great. Yeah.
So yeah, that's kind of a cool one, and a very, very common use case. A little bit more complicated to set up because of the link relationships that you have, but again, super powerful for producing line items of anything with a linked relationship. These are all driven by these linked.
So all you had to do was connect the Airtable API.
Yeah, so within Documint you can add your API key. Yes, you need to do that. Yeah, I didn't cover that part. I can hop in and tell you about that if you'd like, but it's kind of fairly straightforward these days.
Yeah. Just to sum it up.
Yeah, but you connect your API. You need to add a few of these table IDs if you've got linked relationships, but then you're good to go. And there's one final little thing I'll show you here, which is kind of fun to do. So we've got our company level here, and we've got a few invoices for Spectre. And I don't know if you've ever used Quick Chart, which is a no-code chart maker. I'd really recommend it to check it out.
Never used it personally. Quick Chart.
It allows you to create all different types of charts, radar chart, bar charts, donuts. So, and then it gives you an endpoint, basically as a formula. So basically, it gives you this endpoint that you can then adjust and make a variable of within your formula to create charts on the fly. And that's what we've got here. So we've got this formula here, which is basically joining all of the information up together. I can share more with this, anyone that wants to know about it. And this is going to create us a little chart. So this is quite nice. This is a dynamic chart. So if this information changes the next time the button's clicked, you'll get a different chart. So, but again, all possible to do with Documint because this is a URL, an image URL. That's all it is. So as soon as that renders, we can create our document, and perfect for reports or monthly KPIs or stuff like that. So whether they're internal or external, you can create all sorts of different documents with Documint, using something like Quick Chart to support you with charts, or just your Airtable data on its own.
What would you say are some of the limitations that you guys are finding, or I guess some of the features that you've been working on might cover that, but is there anything that you're like, yeah, we really have this problem we're trying to tackle? And yeah,
to be honest, the thing, like with all things, we want to make it as simple to use as possible. There's still a few things that are a little bit complex to do. That will change with the new iteration of the designer. So that will simplify a lot of things and make it even easier to use. But yeah, I think it can be so powerful. It's hard to rein it back in a little bit. So yeah, we need to get better, I think, on our education piece as well. We've got a reasonable catalogue of support documentation, but we could definitely do a better job with our documentation, ironically. But yeah, I mean, there's always room for improvement, of course, and we're going to be making a lot of those improvements in the very near future.
Sean David's probably just joined us, and he said, "Hey, look, Airtable. Yes, we're looking at Airtable and Documint, and see how beautifully they both work together to create documents in one click."
Right.
So yeah, that's that was really powerful, and I do agree. Like, education is definitely something that everyone should be focusing on these days, especially as no-code operations is fairly new in the space, and like we hear more and more of this term, and like more people are getting curious about it. And like, how would you describe a no-code operator, for example, Matt?
Well, I mean, I guess those are the guys, on the coal face, right? Those are the working through those problems and trying to translate them into day-to-day issues and that businesses have, and how they can overcome some of those things is really, understanding the software is one part of it. But I've found that actually getting to the heart of the process and really understanding exactly why things happen in a certain way or why they need to is much more important and much more powerful than knowing a load of different softwares and being able to use them. That's part of it. But if you don't understand the process and you can't design a process properly, then it's academic whether you know the software well.
Mm-hmm. And you said you've been in the no-codes kind, but kind of go back before the no-codes or right at the beginning. Is there anything that you would change for your own personal experience or knowledge? Would you give anyone starting right now some tips, or companies that are getting curious about no-code? Would you give them some good starting points?
That's an interesting question. I guess I would have started earlier. Probably, and learned more. I think one of the big things is that companies are sort of resistant to change because they're not quite sure what it's going to mean for them. And the robots are coming and all that sort of stuff sounds frightening, but there's benefit there for everybody. And I think understanding where those pain points are and those businesses that are really focused on helping and supporting their team to do more are the ones that will win, if you like, if you can win business. And I think it's those opportunities where you can get the most benefit from no-code tools because they're so easy and fast to implement. There's just a massive amount of opportunity and for small and medium-sized businesses, and also for enterprise. But I have less sympathy for enterprises that need help, frankly. They can look after themselves. So small and medium-sized businesses can now compete with much larger organizations because they can be so responsive with what they can build and how quickly they can build it.
Mm-hmm. And the most discussed topic of the week, if not the month, AI and no codes. What do you think? Yay or nay? For example, imagine Documint had a chat GPT saying, "Hey, Documint, can you create me an invoice document with all of these features that I need?" What do you think?
I have been thinking about that a lot. We're not there yet, but it's something that would be really interesting to try and see if we can do. There's a long way between now and there, but I think it would be super interesting to explore that more and see how we can incorporate that into all products. Not just for content, but as you said, for creating a simple document, or for putting a framework in place, or whatever it might be. There's a huge amount of help, and I've been playing around with the previous version actually, and now as well, ChatGPT, and it's impressive. And there's definite applications for all kinds of products, and so I'm a yay, definitely.
Yes, yeah, I agree. And as long as there's collaboration, I think balance is what matters the most in everything, in all aspects of life. So if no code can work well with code, then AI can definitely work well with everything else as well. That is if we use balance and we do it properly. But I guess time will show us.
It will.
All right, and I don't think we have any more questions from the audience.
Okay.
So Jens, do we have anything else coming up?
I think we've been answering everything that got into us now.
Fantastic. Well, then, Jens, thank you so much for helping me co-hosting this event. And Matt, of course, thank you so much for being here with us today. Today was our last event for the season. So I just wanted to wish you the happiest of holidays. And yeah, I do hope, as I was saying to you earlier on, that this is our kind of first time talking to one another here live, but I hope it won't be the last.
I know for sure. And thank you. Best wishes to you guys and to whoever's joined us for the holiday period, and hopefully bigger and better things for next year. So yeah, look, really appreciate coming on and for having a chance to share a little bit about Documint with you guys. Anybody, please feel free to reach out to me, matt@documint.me, if you want to. I do have a discount code if anybody is interested, but drop me a line and I can help you with that. And yeah, look forward to the next one.
Sorry, my connection just went for a second, but yeah, the discount got me excited. So yeah, if you could share that with me and the community, that would be amazing.
Sure, no worries.
All right, well, goodbye everyone, and yeah, I guess I'll see you in the new year or every day in our Discord.
All right, take care for now. Thank you.
I'm gonna
Bye,
end the
guys.
stream.